Okay, Natasha, so good to see you. I'm so excited to even just talk to you. We are starting from the beginning and think back 5 years. I can't believe it. Um, what inspired you to think about the Action Lab at the time? What was happening? We're like, this is something that we had to do.
What was happening at the time?
What inspired
A
you?
lot. I feel like it was 2020, right? So the pandemic was happening. Um, at the same time, a lot of Black Lives Matter protesting was also happening. Um, Going from coming to New York every day to come here in person to uh, online Zoom classes was a little ridiculous. Um, I remember it being very hectic, very chaotic, and unnerving. Um, Everybody was just trying to figure things out the best way that they could. And I remember being a Safe Lab fellow and starting that work with the COVID Watcher project that Columbia was doing. And in doing that work, I met Caitlin, who was wonderful. And she was very enthused, I think, to do something specifically around providing resources to people who wanted to support the Black Lives Matter movement. So she created this document that had different organizations to donate to and support, different types of books to read, etc. And I think that started the idea of pursuing something in that direction. If I can recall correctly, I think Dr. Patton and Dr. Whitty saw the document and approached her about starting an initiative around it, and they wanted her to lead it. And I remember thinking, I think the idea of creating an initiative is great, but Caitlin, who once again I adore, is not Black. Caitlin is Asian. And I remember thinking, if students see her leading a movement that is supposed to be Black, they're not going to take it seriously. I'm going to look like a fool if I'm up there supporting her and doing this, because I don't necessarily think she should be the face of it. Well, I didn't think that at all. So yeah, I feel like a lot
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely talking about some of those challenges at the time. What was happening, like in the world, in history, and even in relationships, and even thinking, and the School of Social Work and all of that. So, in building this space, what were those challenges that you felt, and how do you think you all overcame some of those challenges to then form the lab in the way that it then became?
Well, I think the first challenge was the one that I just mentioned, being kind of weary of Caitlin leading like a Black movement. I think that's one of the first times I really, as an adult, advocated for myself to that extent. So I had a discussion with Caitlin, and I told her, I think this document is great. I think creating a movement around this is great, but I don't think you should be the face of it. In that conversation, she talked about how she was also a little bit uncomfortable. So I think just bringing it up was the first challenge for me. So I would say I'm maybe more of a non-confrontational person, and I didn't know how the conversation would go. But we talked about it, and I told her, if anything, I think we should co-lead this together. And she liked that idea, so we presented it, and it was accepted. So that's what we decided to do. So I think that was the one really big hurdle for me initially. I think after that, kind of figuring out what we were going to do, how we were going to make an impact, how we were going to serve the student population, how we were going to be effective, I think was another hurdle. I'd never done anything like that before, and we were starting at the ground level, so we kind of had to piece things together as we went.
And it was the two of you initially, those first few weeks with Dr. Patton and Dr. Whitty, trying to figure out what is this initiative?
Yes, and Serafina.
And Serafina, right? And what was this initiative? What was it going to be? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ended up calling it Action for Black Lives, ABL. And not only what we were going to be, but how we were going to be unique, because there was already like a Black caucus at Columbia. So like, what are we doing that's different enough that, this wouldn't be under them? And I think the difference is that with me and Caitlin co-leading it, it's like I'm trying to think of the word. Oh my gosh, Dr. O, what is the word?
Collaborating.
Yeah, like a collaboration.
Yeah, rather than one lead, not a top down. It was really about how to collaborate, I think. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And also, I think maybe it showed people how, I don't know, people who are not a part of the same group as you can also support you and advocate for you, and what that type of relationship looks like, because I think that gets very complicated too a lot of times. So yeah, how do we do this hand in hand as a collective?
Hand in hand, and like I know we use the word allyship a lot, or being accomplished together. Thank you for that. So, thinking back on your experience, I know it might be hard, but what was the most rewarding part of watching the lab grow and evolve over time? What can you talk about, like the quality of what was so rewarding for you?
I think going from like me and Caitlin as the only students to having a lot more students come on board, and going from, Action for Black Lives being the main initiative to expanding upon the different initiatives. I remember telling Caitlin, when we would have our meetings, when you came on board as a director, like, wow, look at all of these people. We actually have to interview students to work in the lab. This is incredible. So I think that was really rewarding for me. I think establishing the chapter of the National Association of Black Social Workers was really special, because that had been disbanded here for a while. I also think for me personally, just really learning how to advocate when it comes to policy, and now I'm doing policy work, so I feel like that really helped. And kind of hearing how students were struggling during the pandemic and during the protesting and everything else, and how I think the administration at the time understood what was happening, but I think sometimes when you're outside of an experience, it's harder to imagine what somebody is going through. And really just having the policy change there with the amount of days, we could miss class and not have negative repercussions.
I was going to ask about, what do you think was one of those milestones or moments that made you feel like the lab was truly making a difference? I thought about that. I thought about the policy change around days, but if there was anything else that you could share about something that was really a milestone, if you will, for the lab, then moving into what it then evolved to be.
That's a great question.
We're truly making a difference.
I think it's kind of hard for me to imagine the difference that the lab has made in like the lives of students. I think coming here today actually and hearing that from the students who were here most recently really helped put in the perspective that like people come to the school for this lab, like this is a selling point. Or, people are able to take something they're passionate about and pursue it within this lab and grow and expand it and have support, not only support, but like resources behind them is like really mesmerizing to me.
It has had that, and it's so beautiful to see that, you sort of coming back and hearing that impact. And so in terms of, because the lab, there are all these justice topics all intermingled with each other, not any separate from the other. There's the impact on students and community. There's the impact on the kinds of issues that people are educating the world about. How do you hope that the lab will continue to really do that work, that social justice work in the future? Thinking about what you thought it would be, Action for Black Lives, and then continuing that, especially given where we are right now as, a country. How do you see the lab having an impact on the future?
I kind of see it as this is going to probably sound super sappy, but like a hub for hope. I think, when we first created the lab, a lot was going on and a lot continues to happen, but being around people who are like-minded and also passionate about the same type of topics and wanting to collaborate, wanting to work together, wanting to go out into the community, wanting to do something. I feel like the lab is the place to do something, and a place where you can I was gonna say remain hopeful, but really a place where I think sometimes in order to keep hope alive, so to say, you have to be working towards a better solution. And I feel like that's what the lab is, a way to work towards a better solution to ultimately create the environment and the world that we want and to create the change we want to see. And I hope that as students continue to come here and to be a part of the lab, they are able to keep pursuing whatever passions and initiatives that they feel strongly about.
I love that. That's so much of what I see in the hub for hope. Mm-hmm. I love that. Thinking about, I guess, post leaving Columbia and, your life and where you are now personally, how do you think you're starting the lab as a founder, one of the founders, and being involved here at the School of Social Work, how has that impacted you professionally and personally? Your work and your journey, research journey, whatever, how has that experience then informed and been an impact for you and your
where I work now, a lot of my colleagues have policy degrees. So I think myself, along with maybe 2 other people, have social work degrees. And I think that changes the perspective in which I view different issues. I would say what I do now is social impact work. And I realized that the policies we are helping establish or create or build buy-in for have direct impact on people's lives. And I feel like going to social work school and building this lab has helped me I don't know, be more vigilant of the work that we do and how it can impact other people, whether that's positively or negatively. I feel like a lot of times in policy work in general, people tend to create strategies that they feel will help another person, and the assumption is that it does, and that's a great thing, but until we actually ask the people what they feel about it, it's unclear about how beneficial the policies actually are. So that's something I try to do in my work, like be very persistent about wanting to ask the clients their opinions on what's happening, the effects of the policies on them and their lives, and whether they feel like it's working or not.
When you just, I think, were leaving graduate, you were thinking DEI work, right? And I remember you talking a lot about that in the lab and wanting to pursue that. Do you feel you're doing some of that? Do you feel that, where you were at that time, and that's the work that you wanted to do? How does that work still fit in?
I feel like what I do now, I try to implement DEI into the work that I do now. I feel like I try to be an advocate of trying to provide resources to specific demographics of people, just because their needs may be different from the entire population. And it's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to acknowledge that people have different experiences, but how do we meet them where they're at? When we talk about equity, how do we actually form that if we're treating everybody the same? So that's something I still keep to the forefront of my mind in doing the work that I'm doing now.
Okay, yeah. It's all still connected. It's all still, you're building on all of those skills, all of those passions. What's something you've been able to accomplish here that maybe wouldn't have been possible somewhere else?
Something I was able to accomplish here. My first thought is going back to the policy change. I don't know if that would have happened elsewhere.
You want to say just a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, a lot of students were struggling. I remember one of my friends was taking a class from a hospital room because their mother was sick at the time. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. Why are you here? Like, you should be concentrating on your family because that's what's most important. And I remember them saying, well, if I don't show up, I'm going to receive negative repercussions. I'm going to have to do this crazy makeup assignment, and with all that was going on for them, they just couldn't afford to have any extra work, especially when they already felt like they were kind of drowning in the stuff they had to do already. And there are multiple stories like that, and I just kind of thought it was ridiculous for people to be going through this we're already going through an unprecedented time, right? So I felt like the school should be providing more supports to students, not penalizing them. So I wrote up a policy where students were allowed to have a set number of days where they missed class and no negative repercussions were given. Professors also at the time were just kind of doing what they wanted in those terms. So it varied from professor to professor about how many days you could miss and what kind of repercussions, if any, you would receive. So yeah, that's what the policy change was about. We did a couple of...
You went straight to the dean.
Yes. We went to the dean. We did a couple iterations of it before presenting it to, piloted it. I don't know, it seems crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have happened somewhere else. I don't know if that would happen here today. I don't.
Yeah, I have updates on it, but it definitely changed policy, and I have updates on it. Thank you for that. Do you want to add some more?
No.
Okay. You did great. All right. So, oh my goodness, a favorite memory?
Favorite memory. Ooh. We used to have so much fun.
We used to have a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun on our Zoom calls. We had like a separate WhatsApp group chat where we would talk. I don't know if a favorite memory is coming to mind, but a feeling is coming to mind. And that feeling is just like light, fun, comfort. Really comfort. I feel like that's what the lab was for me, like a home away from home to a certain extent, especially at a time where we were not able to see each other at all. The fact that we built bonds and that those bonds continue, like Caitlin and I are still really good friends, to me, is indicative of what the lab represents and how we come together as a community.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember cafe nights and cooking night and the colorism thing that we did with Jelana. Oh my God, yeah. And Shayi.
Yes, and Miriam.
Yeah, yes, it was in Marion. It was like great. It's still online somewhere, and so it's amazing. What's your favorite thing you've worked on the lab? Sort of, ABL. I don't know.
Yeah, Action for Black Lives was my baby.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the heart of the lab. I don't know if you would say that that's still the case today, but for me, that was the heart of the lab.
Yeah. And I remember you worked on collecting names and Black businesses, remember?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That's still up there. So
it is it?
Yeah, the website.
Oh yeah, I made a map of Black-owned businesses in New York City.
What prompted you, and then how did you pull it together?
Prompted me. There are already lists of Black-owned businesses being created. Once again, this was like the Black Lives Matter movement, so everybody was looking for ways to show support. And I don't know, something just came to me, like, I wish there was a visual representation of this. Like, I'm the kind of person where I also like lists, but I realize that, like, if I'm looking at a list written out, I don't really know where this is. So I have to go look at it on a map anyway. So yeah, one day it was just a creative project of mine. I can't believe that's still up.
You pulled it all together?
I
did.
Out,
and that's incredible. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Okay, I think this is the last question. Describe your time in the lab in 3 words.
Three words. Two of the words I think are gonna be organized chaos. Like a lot was happening, but somehow we got it together. I think my last word is going to be I don't know. I'm gonna say joy. Like when I look back on my time at the lab, I remember doing a lot of work and putting in a lot of hours and time and energy, and sometimes being frustrated at all that was happening, but also having a lot of fun.
That's great. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
That was excellent. Anything else before I...
What's your favorite thing you've worked on in the lab?
Okay, so I would have to go all the way back. It was probably starting the lab to begin with. That's really what sticks with me is just the initial work that I had done together with Natosha Dobbins and Dr. O and Dr. Patton, Dr. Woody, and Serafina. Those were the very beginning moments where we didn't really know what we were doing, but we had a vision. And the vision was that we really wanted to create a safe space that centered the ideas of Black students and the safety of Black students. And I remember it was difficult because as an Asian American person proposing this idea, it might have seemed, strange. But I felt like this group of people understood that all of our liberation is tied together. And they were really supportive of the idea and wanted to create a space in the school where students could not just organize on their own, but really have support from professors to be able to pursue their research ideas, their ideas for advocacy in the community, their ideas for just building the community that they wanted to see at Columbia. And it was so cool that they were just willing to work out all of the things to make it happen with me, to take it from a vision to, actually making a website, figuring out how to pay students to work in this lab, how to create places where we could all convene. And so that's my favorite thing.
Cool. What's your favorite memory from your time here?
So one thing was just Tosh calling me up all the time. my partner, and it was at all hours of the day. We would talk about the lab, we would talk about assignments we were working on, we were talking about, life, and I so enjoyed just working together with her and building off of her ideas and her passion. And I think she really inspired me to be bolder and also to really get organized. She was always the one who was starting an assignment first, always starting an idea, and I was yes, we will find a way to make this happen together. And I loved being able to collaborate with her.
Cool. Describe your time in the lab in 3 words.
Experimental, joyful, and tight-knit.
Cool. how has how has the lab personally impacted you, your work, or your research journey?
One thing that was really unique about the lab was that students and professors could be really in close community with each other in a way that I didn't feel was possible in other parts of the school. And what came of that was that people could just be so vulnerable with each other. And we didn't just keep discussions in like an academic, theoretical level. Like, we really got into it. And there were moments where we're trying to figure out, like, you know, there's some conflict between people in the lab. You know, how do we work that out? And we actually don't know how to deal with this, like, certain new events that were happening in the world. Like, how do we respond to that in a way that's, like, compassionate to students? We were able to do that, and I felt like a lot of students and professors modeled to me, like, how to do that with vulnerability and, like, bringing their whole selves into the work, which is not something I was used to. I was very used to, you know, like, at school, I'm my school self. And outside, I just keep that away. And I learned through the lab that it was important to bring both, and that it's important to bring all the unique parts of myself and, like, joy into the work that I do. It really makes a difference in how the work gets done.
Cool. So what's something you've been able to accomplish here that wouldn't have been possible elsewhere?
Building on what I was saying before, I think that people in the lab really show me how to embrace themselves and their personal stories. And I think that wasn't something that was really on my radar until I started being in community with everyone at the lab and having to do things like in front of a camera, which is terrifying, but also it was like an opportunity to really have a platform for my voice, which I shy away from, but people in the lab, like, really encouraged it, and that was so heartening that people were telling me, like, oh, your voice matters, and, like, people should hear it.
Yeah, cool. What has been the most rewarding part of watching the lab grow and evolve over time?
I love seeing how close everyone is in the lab and how you all treat each other like family. Like, when I saw you and Chet today, just embrace each other like you're long lost cousins. And I loved also seeing just the pizzazz people bring into each iteration of the lab. I loved that when I came in person for the first time for an Action Lab event, like for some celebration, there was like vinyl printed t-shirts and like little bags, and
It was my graduation.
it was yeah, and I loved that people found ways to really celebrate each other and have fun doing social justice work, which is hard, but also people were doing it with just like such great flair and joy.
So, last question. How do you hope the lab will continue to impact social justice work in the future?
I hope that it can continue to be a really safe space for students at Columbia it can be an oppressive institution. It is oppressive. And students, particularly Black students, students of color, queer students, students who have disabilities, like students of multiple marginalized identities, like feel that. So I hope that the lab can be a space for them to have really close community, to have a place where their voice can be heard, and that they can put their ideas into action and really use their time at the school to explore the change that they want to make in the world, and to practice being in community with each other in the way that they want to be.